Hi guys, it's Alli. In today's video I have the China Glaze My Little Pony inspired collection. So let's start with some brand information. So China Glaze is owned by American International Industries. American International Industries does not test on animals, and they do not contract a third party to test on animals. To my best knowledge and research, China Glaze is manufactured in the US. However, I'm not sure whether or not they import to China. And why does that matter? Because China requires that they require animal testing on any imports that are going to be sold in China. So that's up to you to figure out. So China Glaze, their nail colors are vegan to my research. Some of the nail treatments have silk in them, and you can decide whether or not silk is vegan or not. So here is the China Glaze brush. It's not my favorite. But it's not terrible or anything. It's a flat brush with a rounded thickness, and so for me it's just a little bit too thin for me. I prefer wider brushes, but for those who have smaller nail beds, it might be ideal for you. So let's move on to some order information. So I purchased this collection from Skyline Beauty Supply. Skyline Beauty Supply is a beauty retailer. They've been in business since I think like 1987. Their corporation is a supplier, manufacturer, and distributor of nail, hair, and skin products. The site offers free shipping on orders over $30, and then for any orders less than $30, they have a flat rate for shipping of $3.50, which I think is fantastic. That's a great shipping price. They unfortunately do not ship internationally, and they advertise that they're for nail professionals only. However, I have never had an issue ordering from them. They never asked for any license number or anything like that. Per their website, orders usually take 2 to 3 days to be processed, and then an additional 2 to 3 days to be shipped. Orders over $100 do require a signature for delivery, and then for sanitary reasons, they don't accept any returns and they don't make any exchanges. So at the time that I purchased this collection, Skyline Beauty had a promotion going on where you could get all 12 plus the display for $40, and then obviously I received free shipping since it was over $30. So it was 12 China Glaze polishes for $40, which is a great deal. I know that now they're being sold for $4.25 per polish on the Skyline Beauty website, but you might be able to find them at another discount site for cheaper. I know Trans Design has China Glaze for $3.25. Head to Toe Beauty might be $3.25 as well. I'm not sure if they have this collection. I haven't looked, but you can go and peruse and see if you can piece the collection together for cheaper. Okay, so I placed my order on Saturday, July 1st. And the order shipped on Friday, July 7th, which technically falls in line with their 2 to 3 days processing, 2 to 3 days shipping. And then I received the order on Wednesday, July 12th. Personally, this is a long time for a company to hold my money without receiving the product. There were no issues. Everything came correctly. I didn't have any issues whatsoever with what I received. But I think 10 days is kind of a good maximum for how long it should take for a company to send you products, especially products that they themselves are not manufacturing. I can understand when like there's an eyeshadow palette that a company is making themselves and there might be a little bit more processing time, but I mean, these polishes really should be packed, and if you're selling the full collection for $40, you have to know people are going to buy it. So to me, those should already be packaged and ready to be sent off. One thing that I appreciate about Trans Design is I can place my order. In fact, I'll give you a quick little anecdote. I placed an order for OPI, the OPI Fall Collection, the China Glaze Fall Collection, and the Orly Fall Collection, I guess was about 2 weeks ago. I received the shipping notice less than 24 hours after I purchased, and I received the box of polishes, I think it was two or 3 days after I purchased. So again, to me, if you're a distributor of cosmetics and there are things that you aren't manufacturing yourself, I think 12 days is a really, really long time to be holding that, to hold a customer's money. But that's just my opinion. Okay, so the collection information that I have basically is that China Glaze either collaborated with My Little Pony or they were inspired by My Little Pony. I would assume, since they're using the logo and everything, that they worked with My Little Pony to put this collection together. It's comprised of a yellow, there is a lighter green, a couple of blues, a couple of purples, some reds and pinks, a silver holographic, and then One of the blue purples I think can be worn on its own, but I, for this video, used it as a topper. I would not wear it on its own. It's too sheer. So I'm going to call it and say that there are 2 shifty toppers in the collection as well. So here are the swatches. If you're interested in skipping ahead, you can look at the timestamps and go to the polish you're interested in. So the first one we're looking at is Kill 'Em With Kindness. So this one is kind of like a mellow yellow or like a Ken's Honey Mustard yellow. And some of you might be wondering, it looks like something I've seen before this year. It's very similar to Casual Friday, which China Glaze released in the, was it their spring collection? They released so many collections this year. I don't know. I think it was a spring collection. But yeah, so it's very, very similar. I don't think you need both. Casual Friday is a smidgen darker than this one, but I really don't think that you need both in your collection. They're very similar. And for your reference, if you want to look up the color online, I would say it's closest to Pantone's P1-3U. So just for your reference. The consistency of Kill 'Em With Kindness was thin, and it was not the easiest formula to work with, to be completely honest. On the first coat it went on sheer and very streaky. On the second coat it was still very streaky, and then it did get opaque for me in 3. This finished with a glossy finish. Now I'm going to be rating the polishes individually and then as a collection. So in terms of cost, I would rate this a 4 out of 5. I paid around $3 for each of these polishes, and $3 for a bad yellow is not really that bad. I mean, most yellows aren't the greatest anyway. Now, if you're buying China Glaze at full price, it's definitely 1 out of 5. But I'm going to give it a 4 out of 5 for cost. For formula or ease of application, I'm going to give this a 2 out of 5. It wasn't the worst yellow I've ever worked with, but it was far from the best. And then for the number of coats, most yellows do take 3 coats. I would say most take 3 coats. But I'm going to give it a 2 out of 5. To me, it did get opaque, so that's the extra star that it's going to get. So this polish rates at a 2.67 out of 5 stars. So that's kind of how I feel about it too. Our next polish is called Cutie Mark the Spot. This one is kind of a cool toned whited out green. For your reference, it is similar to Pantone's 2253U. The consistency of Cutie Mark the Spot was normal. On the first coat it went on just slightly sheer and a little bit streaky. But it was a little bit more opaque than I thought it was going to be. And then in the live swatch, I was able to get this opaque in 2 coats. I used 3 for the swatch picture because I still had some streaks after 2. So I would say this is a 2 to 3 coater. The finish was glossy. In terms of its rating, at cost, I would give it again a 4 out of 5. It was a decent polish for $3. For formula ease of use, I'm going to give this a 3 out of 5 just because it was streaky and I did need the extra coat in my swatch picture. And then for the number of coats that it requires, I'm going to give it a 3 out of 5. You can get this opaque in 2. I think letting that first coat completely dry and then using a thicker second, I think you can get this opaque. So overall, I would rate Cutie Marks the Spot at 3.33 out of 5 stars. So the next polish we have is One Polished Pony. This is a gorgeous light blue with just a tad bit of green in it. It also has a strong silver shimmer running throughout it as well. For reference sake, you can look to Pantone's 9460U. This had a thin to normal consistency. On the first coat, it went on very streaky, which was surprising, but I was able to get it opaque with a thicker second. I can see some people needing 3 coats for this one. I see a satin finish when I look at this. When it dries down, it has a little bit of a sheen to it. It's certainly not all the way matte, but it's far from glossy, so I would say it's a satin finish. In terms of rating this one at cost, I would rate it at 4 out of 5 stars, decent polish for $3. For formula ease of use, I'm going to give it a 3 out of 5 just because it was so streaky on the first one and I can see people possibly needing 3. And then for the number of coats that it requires, I'm also going to give it a 3 out of 5. So I would rate One Polished Pony at 3.33 out of 5 stars. And next we have Too Busy Being Awesome. This is a gorgeous bright cyan blue. It's a tad bit brighter than Pantone's Process Cyan C, so you can look that up for your reference. The consistency of Too Busy Being Awesome was more normal. On the first coat it went on very even, but it was sheer, and then it was able to get completely opaque in two. It almost has like a jelly type of a look to it on the first coat. This one did dry down to more of a satin finish, and I will warn you, this does stain the nails. I still have staining around my cuticles today. I swatched all of these last night, and I still have some staining around the cuticles today. So rating this polish, in terms of cost, I'm going to give it a 4 out of 5. For formula and ease of use, I'm also going to give this a 4 out of 5. And then for the number of coats that it requires, I'm going to give it a 4 out of 5 as well. So overall, I would say Too Busy Being Awesome is 4 out of 5 stars. The next one we have is called Let Your Twilight Sparkle. This is a gorgeous duochrome. I'm just going to give Pantone references, but I see a lilac shimmer in here, or even like an orchidy shimmer in here, a purple shift and a blue shift. The Pantone references, I would say, for the lilac shimmer, you can look to Pantone 251U. For the purple shift, you can look to Pantone 2101U. And for the blue shift, you can look at Pantone 2128U. So the consistency of this topper was normal for a topper. Again, I consider it a topper. I've seen China Glaze. I think I saw them post an Instagram picture with someone wearing it probably at 3, 4, 5, 6 coats, because that you could see the shimmer reflecting. It wasn't like a in-your-face swatch picture or anything, but you could kind of see it reflecting. I would use this as a topper. Too sheer for me. I did swatch it as on its own. It's just too sheer for me to use otherwise. The finish is very shimmery. In terms of rating it, I really don't like toppers that are sold at full price, so I'm going to give this a 2 out of 5. If you can't wear it on its own and it look, opaque, I don't think you should be charged with the price of like a full pigmented polish. Doesn't make any sense to me. For ease of use, I'm going to give this a 5 out of 5. It was incredibly easy to use, no issues with that. I just needed one coat over, I think I swatched this over Too Busy Being Awesome. I just needed one coat over that, so no issues there. I'm not going to rate it for number of coats because, again, I think it's just a topper. So overall, I'm going to rate Let Your Twilight Sparkle at 3.5 out of 5 stars. And next up we have I Just Canterlot. And they came up with I Just Canterlot 2. Was that last year? I can't remember. Was that last year or this year? I can't remember. Anyway, I like this name. So this one is a great purple. For your reference, Pantone's 2087C. It's just slightly muted, but that's a decent match to this. This one also has some silver glitters and silver holographic glitters in there as well. In terms of the consistency, it's normal for a glitter, obviously a little bit on the thicker side for a polish, but very easy to use, no issues with its thickness. On the first coat, naturally, as most micro glitters do, this one was a little bit sheer on the first one, still slightly sheer on the second, but it was very distracting. In the live swatch, I stopped at 2. In the swatch picture, I went to 3 coats just to make sure that no nail line was showing. The finish of this is blingy. So in terms of rating this, at cost, I'm going to rate this a 5 out of 5. I think to get a micro glitter with silver holographic in there at $3 is a great price. You're not going to find that very much anywhere, so I would definitely give this a 5 out of 5. For ease of application, I'm going to give this a 5 out of 5 stars. It didn't get too thick on the nails, even at 3 coats. So very easy to use, no issues whatsoever. For the number of coats, since it did take me 3 coats, I'm going to give it a 4 out of 5. Most micro glitters require 3, so I'm not going to dock off too many points for that. So overall, I'm giving this polish a 4.67 out of 5 stars. Obviously, if you aren't into micro glitters, you're probably not going to like it, but if you are, I think this is a great choice. Alright, our next polish is called Where's the Party Canon At? And this one is a berry jelly with silver glitters and silver holographic glitters as well. For your reference, you can look at Pantone's 2451 CP. So for the consistency, again, this is a micro glitter. So for a micro glitter, it had a normal consistency compared to other polishes. It's a little bit on the thicker side. It was a little bit sheer on the first coat, but completely opaque in 2. The finish of this is obviously pretty blingy. In terms of rating the polish, for cost, 5 out of 5 for sure. A great holographic micro glitter for $3 or $4.25. I'll take it. For the formula ease of application, I'm going to also give this one a 5 out of 5. Very easy, again, does not get too thick on the nails. And then for the number of coats, a 2-coat micro glitter, I'm going to give it a 5 out of 5. I think that's about as good as you're going to get. So this one gets a solid 5 out of 5 stars for me. Next we have Applejack of My Eye. This one has a cute name too. This is what I would call kind of a bright muddy raspberry, if that description makes any sense whatsoever. And that's why I'm giving you the Pantone colors to look at. So this one you can look at Pantone's 198XGC for reference. The consistency of Applejack of My Eye is normal, no thickness, no excessive thickness or no thinness or anything. It does go on sheer on the first coat, but very even, and then for me it was slightly sheer on 2. So it required 3 coats both in the live swatch and in the swatch picture, unfortunately. The finish of this is glossy. And in terms of rating, this one was hard because I really do like the color, but I'm not rating on color because, you know, that's totally, I mean, it's all subjective, but color is definitely way subjective. At cost, I'm going to give this a 4 out of 5. At $3, I think it's a pretty decent polish. For the formula ease of use, I'm going to give it a 4 out of 5. There really weren't any serious issues in terms of it being excessively streaky or super sheer. It was pretty sheer, but it wasn't very streaky. And then for the number of coats that it requires, I'm going to give it a 3 out of 5 because I'm not a fan of going to 3 coats. So overall, that would be a 3.67 out of 5 stars. Next, we're looking at She's a Mane-iac. These are so cheesy. I love it. Okay, so this one is a very hot but slightly dark pink. For Pantone reference, look at 213C. This also has a hot pink shimmer running throughout it too that is apparent on the nails. The consistency of She's a Mane-iac is normal. On the first coat it went on sheer but even. On the second coat it was still considerably sheer. And then on 3, it was still a little bit sheer, unfortunately. So it did not get completely opaque for me. This one does dry down to a matte finish, which, you know, I don't know. I felt like as it dried down, it looked more sheer. It went on, it looked more opaque, and then it dried down to be more sheer. So take that into consideration. So at cost, I'm going to give this a 3 out of 5 stars. It's really just, for me, it's not that good. It's not hard to use, it's just that it doesn't get opaque, and I have pinks that I've paid less money for that do get opaque. So at cost, I'm going to give this 3 out of 5 stars. For formula ease of use, I'm going to give it 3 out of 5 stars. Again, it wasn't excessively streaky or anything, just very sheer. And then for the number of coats, I'm going to give it 2 out of 5 stars. So for me, She's a Mane-iac falls at 2.67 out of 5 stars. And next up we have Sweet as Pinkie Pie. This one is a light pink with some peach undertones in there. For reference sake, look at Pantene 919U. The consistency of Sweet as Pinkie Pie is a little bit on the thin side, as you'd probably imagine. It was sheer and streaky on the first coat. The second coat was completely opaque, but I will say if you use thinner coats, you will definitely need 3. Yes, you'll definitely need 3. This one has a glossy finish. In terms of cost, I would rate this at a 4 out of 5 for ease of application, just because it was a little bit streaky on the first coat, and I could see someone needing 3. I'm going to give this a 3 out of 5. And then for the number of coats that it required, I'm going to give it a 4 out of 5. So this falls at a 3.67 out of 5 stars. Our 11th polish is Sea Ponies, and this is just a silver staticky holographic. I don't have a Pantone reference for you. The consistency of this is normal, and the ease of application, guys, number of coats, this required 1 coat for me, just 1 coat. I used 1 coat in the live swatch, and I used 1 coat for the swatch picture. It was a beautiful polish. For the finish, it is a mildly blingy. It's not in your face, but the holographic is there. You can think back to the hologram collection that I reviewed beginning of July, maybe around sometime in July, I think. You can think back to that collection for how China Glaze makes their holographics, and it's very similar to the finish on those, where the holo is more mild. Rating this polish for cost, I mean, a holographic mainstream polish that costs me around $3 might cost you $4.25, 5 out of 5 stars. I'm okay with that. For the formula and the ease of application, I'm going to give this a 5 out of 5. Again, no streakiness, no sheerness, definitely a 5 out of 5. And for the number of coats, obviously it's a 1 coater, so I'm going to give this a 5 out of 5. and therefore Sea Ponies falls at 5 out of 5 stars for me. And the last one we have is this iridescent topper. This one is kind of like an eggshell white base, milky base with a ton of iridescent shimmer in there. It's beautiful. I think to look at it in the bottle is absolutely beautiful. The consistency of Hey Girl Hey, did I say the name of it? Hey Girl Hey! The consistency is quite normal for a topper. I swatched this over, what did I swatch it over? I think it was Cutie Mark the Spot in my picture, and I think the live swatch was on its own. But it is very, very sheer, and it's difficult to photograph. That's one thing that I have noted. It's difficult for me to photograph this one. The finish is very shimmery. So in rating this for cost, again, I don't like toppers that cost the same as a full pigmented polish, so I'm going to give this a 2 out of 5 stars. For the cost, again, $3 isn't that much, which gives it the extra star, but it could definitely have been marked down a little bit as far as I'm concerned. For the formula and the ease of application, I'm going to give this a 5 out of 5. Just one swipe over whatever you're wearing will definitely give you the effect that you want. So that's nice. And so that falls, Hey Girl Hey, falls at 3.5 out of 5 stars. Alright, so I'm going to close out by reviewing the entire, or rating the entire collection here. For uniqueness, it wasn't the most unique collection we have. Definitely some creams in here that we probably have in China Glaze polishes already, but I did appreciate the 2 micro glitters. I did appreciate the topper and the silver holographic. So I'm going to give it, for uniqueness, I'm going to give it a 3 out of 5 stars. For cohesiveness, I thought the collection was decently cohesive. I just didn't like the fact that they put 4 reds and pinks. I know, my little soapbox. So I'm going to give, for cohesiveness of the collection, I'm going to give it a 4 out of 5 stars. For the price, I'm going to give it a 4 out of 5 stars at what I paid for it. Again, if you're talking about paying full price for the China Glaze brand, I mean, I don't do it, so I really can't tell you. I mean, I would say for me, it would be like a 1 out of 5 for the full price of all these polishes. For accessibility, I think I've seen it in Sally's, and that's it. So I'm going to give it a 3 out of 5. It is pretty widely available online. You can find them online. So I'm going to give it a 3 out of 5 for accessibility. And then for each individual polish's performance, they averaged out to 3.75 out of 5 stars. So when you average all of those ratings together, for me, this collection, the My Little Pony collection by China Glaze, rates at 3.55 out of 5 stars, which is probably about how I feel about it. It's not the best collection, but far from the worst. So I hope you guys enjoyed this review. I would love to hear which of the 12 polishes was your favorite and whether you like the collection as a whole. I think my favorites stick out. I really enjoy Sea Ponies for the fact that it's a one-coat silver holographic mainstream polish. Like, what? I really enjoyed Where's the Party Canyon At? This is probably one of my favorites. Probably like the top, I would say, my favorite. And then, surprisingly, it didn't rate too well, like not the best, but I really like the color of Applejack of My Eye, which is kind of like a muddy raspberry. So overall, I mean, again, 3.55 pretty much sums up how I feel about the collection as a whole. So I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope it was helpful, and I will see you in the next one very soon. Bye.